All right, so if you're a metal fan, chances are you've had debates with other metal fans about when the genre died or if the genre is dead. I believe that the genre is dead, but we should talk about what that means. What does it mean to be a dead genre? Does it mean that people stopped liking the material? No, not really. I mean, you have people appreciating a different format of what the material once represented, but there are still rabid metal fans all over the world. Does it mean that there are no longer good records coming out within the genre? Not really. I mean, kind of. Yeah. There's no modern classics. There's no records that kind of define a movement. There's decent records, and every once in a while you'll hear something that sounds truly inspired. But for the most part, there isn't a whole lot of great material, which is why this channel is happening. But there are still decent records happening. So what does it mean? And when did it happen? People will often say, "Oh, it died in '94 or '93." What happened in '94 and '93? You had the rise of nu metal. But if you look at what the spirit of nu metal is versus what the spirit of what metal is, you'll see they have nothing in common. And there was never the danger of one genre being replaced by another. So what happened there? Also, there's plenty of good records that happened after '94. You have Pierce from Within, Storm of the Lightsbane, genre classics that happened after '94. That they were both '95. But what does it mean? What does it mean to say that a genre is dead? To me, it means that the mindset that went along with creating the pieces that belong to that genre is dead. So what kills a mindset? What made the mindset of, say, hardcore, punk, and metal different from the mindset that can create that creates that kind of material today or is attempting to? I think that what makes us cling to these kind of genres is that they're anomalies. We recognize that the stuff that went into the birth of those genres it existed because the mindsets were different from the norm, and they weren't rooted in the idea that we're going to be creating records or a movement to appease the audience. This is about appeasing the player. Those kind of, you could recognize that it's catharsis. It's an artistic form of catharsis. And back then, with hardcore and punk and such, the idea was, fuck you, I'm gonna be myself. And now the idea is, fuck me, I need people to like me. So they come up with a formula to get people to acknowledge you, whether it's based on your skill level or that you can create a catchy song or melody for a couple seconds. And what you have now is you don't have a genre replacing another genre, you just have a mutation of the aesthetics of it that now are an entirely different thing. So you no longer have metal, you have like YouTube core or whatever. But if we're gonna talk about metal being dead, we need to analyze what exactly that means and why it happens. And the thing I think killed metal off is that it was never alive enough to be killed or die. It was dead on arrival. The reason that it's dead is because that mindset of just wanting to be yourself, create something as your own personal catharsis, and just stand outside of the crowd. Once that can only really happen when you're young enough to not understand the ease and value of appeasing the crowd and the idea of reward. You don't care about that when you're young because you don't understand what it means to be an adult and have to fall in line, or you're going to risk being ostracized from society for saying the wrong thing, believing the wrong thing. So because that's not in your head, you can only really make those really strong artistic standpoints when you're too young to have to deal with that conflict. And unfortunately, people often realize what that conflict is and they decide to fall in line. And that's when you have the death of the spirit of what goes along with those genres. You have, people say like, oh, what killed rock and roll, or rock and roll is dead, and it's become too corporate, or country is dead and now it's pop country. None of those things died and were replaced by something else. The mindset that went along with it died. And that mindset can only exist for a little bit. It's an organic thing, and anything organic has a shelf life. And shit that's pumped full of fucking preservatives lasts forever. And that's why you have stuff like metalcore way outlasting its welcome. And I don't mean just what metalcore sounded like in the year 2000 or 2001. I mean all of the different branches of what metalcore is now, like your Tosin Abasi core, your sweeps and open chugs. All of that stuff is part of that same spirit because it's written to get the audience to like you instead of written as catharsis for the author. And you can see it, you can feel it, you can understand it. And this has nothing to do with whether you like the material. Like I say over and over again, you can like this shit. I like some stuff that sucks. It doesn't matter. I can like it and acknowledge that it's not good. I could crave a Big Mac, but I know it's not real. That's the thing that we have to divorce ourselves if we're going to try to attempt actual analysis. But we're too blinded by that, and that's a part of what kills genres. It's our own egos that kill the genre. We think about ourselves. We think about how we can fit in. We think about how we can survive, not just survive like obtain your next meal, but survive in terms of not being cast out of society, so like the social survival. All that shit matters after you get your feet wet in adulthood, and that youthfulness of what metal represents, that id, that sense of organic rebellion against societal norms, that all gets eroded. And then you see I can't think of any bands that are as vital late in their career as they are when they start. And it's because you start getting the pressures of adulthood filtering your artistic process, and you start thinking like, I'm established, how can I get people to continue to buy my material? What can I bring into my formula to keep them still hooked? And you start bringing in the big chorus in your songwriting. You start bringing in the consonant melody. You start bringing in catchy stuff. And what does catchy mean? There's been plenty of studies where people are fooled into liking something because it's catchy. It's the same idea of putting like a mobile on top of a kid's crib that will play the same shit to get it to fall asleep. It's that sense of security you get from familiarity that tricks you into thinking you like something. And people know that. When they go to the drawing board for writing their material, they know what is going to keep you hooked. And there might be elements of what Slayer was in their last record. I didn't listen to it, I don't know. But by altering that formula enough, by acknowledging what happens through adulthood and knowing that you get rewards for doing certain behaviors, you end up killing your own original standpoints. And that's what killed metal. It's not new metal coming along and taking its place. It's not good records coming along, or good records no longer being produced. It's not people not liking it anymore. It's that original organic mindset that slowly gets eroded as time moves on. And that's why stuff like metalcore has its longevity. It's because it's not written from a mindset of someone who is unsullied by the outside world. It's written by someone who acknowledges what kind of formula to take in order to get people to like you. And that's why people that actually care about metal, or people that actually care about art, that's why they don't like it. It's not because, I can't handle someone new to the genre approaching what I love and trying to get their feet wet. It's because it's transparent. It's because we can analyze it by seeing the structure, analyze it by seeing the aesthetics, and know that this is coming from the mind that does not know the true spirit, excuse me, the true spirit of what my genre represents, and they're kind of taking a bastardized approach to it, and that's why people start sharpening the pitchforks. And I understand that if you are trying to make metal as a young person and you don't see that because you don't have that knowledge of the history behind it, or you're born in the social media era where you're constantly being fed that sense of approval, I understand why you wouldn't get that. And you're going to look at the skill of your craft as an indication that you have earned something. No one has earned anything. It doesn't matter how much you practice. It doesn't matter what you learn. What matters is what you get across to your audience in terms of the meaning of your music. So that's why this channel exists, and that's why people that love metal for what it is and what it was are going to not be giving any slack to the modern generation that doesn't understand that. So that's kind of what I want to talk about in this video. Do I think metal is dead? Yes, but I don't think it died because of outside sources. I think it died because the mindset that goes into producing stuff like that has a shelf life. It can only exist as long as you're not burdened by outside forces. And we all inevitably get burdened by outside forces. So we're never going to see a return to that because right now society is mired in the sense that you have to be accepted. Acceptance socially is more important than it's ever been. So that's what's going to drive people to do anything. It's always going to be there. Survival is always there. And what's interesting about music is, we exist primarily to survive, whether it's physically surviving or socially surviving, and music or art in general is an odd combination of the two. If people are trying to go into it to make a living, that aspect is there, but you're also most likely, unless you care about what you're doing, are trying to get laid, and that's survival. And that's another thing that makes metalheads fucking get super pissed off, is because we see, your YouTube core guitar player going out trying to make a name for themselves with their 18-second snippets of high skill and no substance, and we know that they're putting it out there to get laid. And that's not what this genre represented for us. We tried to understand those elements about human nature and go against it when we created what metal is. And now we're seeing that mindset that's more akin to the reward that goes into rock and roll coming through the cracks and eroding away at the metal spirit. But once again, it's not killing metal. Metal was long dead. Metal was dead because the mindset died. And we're going to, in order to come up with a new take on the genre or a new genre in general, we're going to have to see that mindset return where you don't care about what people think. Only now it's harder than ever to do so. So thanks for listening, and I will talk to you soon.